Hello, everyone, and welcome to another SSCIT broadcast. Today I will be your host, Chobo Swaggins, aka Jealous at Team Liquid, and our program will consist of replays recommended in the SSCIT Discord, for which you can find the link in the description. The submission deadline for the AIIDE tournament happened on September 30th, and quite a few changes have been made to the AI you may be familiar with from previous broadcasts. Now that the submission date has passed, we will have an opportunity to look at some of those changes today. Stay tuned for more details about this event at the end of this broadcast. Let's hop into the games. In the first game here, we have Brian Weber, the Brown Zerg, at the 11 o'clock base on Roadrunner, and at the 8 o'clock base we have Knightcat P, the P standing, of course, for Protoss, and Knightcat, of course, being one of our co-commentators on this channel. This replay was suggested by CUNYBot, and the story behind this replay, I feel like in this case it's appropriate to give a slight spoiler. The comment was, lots of bad plays, but it is all worth it at 15 minutes. So let's speed it up a little bit and get right to it. We see an early scout, gateway scout from Knightcat P, which is a prudent move on this map against Zerg. It is, interestingly enough, going for a cross scout, which I don't think I've seen before from AI. Cross scout does give plenty of information in particular situations. For example, in TVP it can give you information about whether or not a timing push is viable early on, but unfortunately in this case the cross scout is going to detriment the Protoss and slow it down from finding the fact that the Zerg went for a relatively macro oriented build with a natural hatchery. Protoss, on the other hand, generally wants to be going for an FFE, or a Forge Fast Expand, in the PvZ matchup when they are humans. However, 2-gate is also somewhat viable, depending on execution, and in AI world, we already know that the rules don't exactly apply that the way they normally do. This may be one of those first instances of a questionable play with the way that the ramp is being blocked. It's not being entirely blocked. Maybe the Zealots have superhuman reactions, which is definitely possible, but it looks like overall they are kind of outlining a concave here, which is still a very solid play. 6 Zealots array up, layer coming up in the natural already for Brian Weber, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. We do have, I believe, a Cybernetics core, yes it is, coming up for the Protoss player. Let's see what tech the Zerg opts for. The layer has been up already. Do we have any upgrades going? It's just speed, and this must be the Spire, I'm guessing? Yes, it is. Slightly delayed, interestingly enough, and the second gas at an interesting timing as well. Plenty of Zealots out on the map already. Looks like it's more interested in taking an expansion. Looks like a mineral walk there, actually, which is an interesting move. And the Zealots actually abandoning the expansion, which is another interesting move, I would say. Sunken's also not exactly at the ideal place. You might want to cover the ramp more, if anything, prevent run-bys, especially considering the fact that the Protoss player has, well, more than enough army to actually do some damage against this kind of lack of army, should I say. And looks like we do have 6 Mutalisks producing almost all at the same time, which means that the bot does have good build timing here. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, the amount of Zealots and Dragoons here should be able to take out a base, and I wonder where these Zealots are going. I have no idea where they are going. They are getting +1. The amount of Dragoons is not going to be enough to hold off 6 Mutalisks, though, and here the Mutalisks are, and they're kind of just chilling. Maybe they're waiting for a critical number. It's going to be interesting to find out what that number is, and I should note that Dragoons are being produced now, in addition to that Nexus. And actually, it's a third Nexus here, now that I'm realizing it. The Mutalisks are unsure of how to approach this. The Dragoon count has risen, but there is more than enough Mutalisks here to target down these Dragoons one by one. Neither party interested in engaging. One Dragoon is going to go down, and looks like, oh, we're seeing some human-like Mutalisk micro here. 2 Dragoons go down again, and more Mutalisks being made. More Dragoons going down, but still no economic damage. I wonder what production is. It's still going to be Dragoons. Looks like gas, pylons, probes. Maybe it's my human instinct, but I definitely would have panicked more and opted to go for, like, try to put down some cannons and some Templar tech or something. But with the Mutalisks choosing not to engage yet, the threat is being staved off. And interestingly enough, the Zealots still not opting to go. Another way to delay Mutalisks, if you're a human player, is to send your Zealots on the aggressive. As we saw earlier, 2 Sunkens only at the natural of the Zerg player, so Zealots could be a good reason for the Zerg to send its Mutalisks back. And now we see an aggressive move coming from Knightcat. Looks like it's going to be exploring another base with its whole entire army, which is of course an interesting tactic. I would not generally recommend this move. Looks like it's actually, no, actually it sent its whole army here to take this expansion. Still somewhat of a perhaps not the most optimal use of its army, but at the same time it is staying alive. The Mutalisks are dancing out here, unsure of how to proceed, and quite frankly the supply count for Knightcat is very scary at this point. The Zerg taking a third base of its own, but still only 2 Sunkens at each base, actually going up to Hive now and adding macro hatcheries in the main base. Interesting to see what's going to come next after this. Looks like maybe it's going to send Zealots to take another base, or is it actually going on the aggressive this time? Let's find out. Looks like the aggression is on. We now do see Hydralisks out on the field, or at least one of them. This army coming in through willy-nilly for the Protoss player, half being sent to attack, half on the run by, and half look like they just kind of came over here to explore. And wow, nice drone pull there to protect those Sunkens. The amount of Zealots that were there were actually probably enough to take out that base, but holding on with the drones surrounding. I'm going to keep my eye on this just for a little while. I mean, this hatchery isn't being defended very well at the moment, but there are plenty more where that came from. Another coming down up here. The Mutalisks show up with no cancel on the hatchery action. Ultralisk Den also up, interestingly enough. So many hatcheries coming up. Look at that, 4 macro hatcheries coming up, and a Greater Spire. Greater Spire and Ultras Den probably not attainable on 3 gases, generally speaking. Although there is about 800 in the bank, that's not enough to make a relevant amount of Ultralisks at this point in time, I believe. But it should be noted that Protoss on more bases than Zerg generally is favorable for the Protoss player, and we see it now taking another base here at the 4 o'clock expansion. Mutalisks still kind of dancing around the middle. Interesting to see where this will go next. I'm still surprised by the lack of anti-air produced by Knightcat, and actually there's no production whatsoever at this point, which is quite befuddling considering the fact that it's gotten supply blocked, and I think it might not know to make more pylons. It did start a nexus, so this difference in supply. Alright, well, let's see what happens at 14 minutes. I mean 15 minutes. We see that at 14 we let a probe train go by the dancing Mutalisks here. And keep in mind, it is very difficult to code these AI. I personally have no idea how difficult it could be, you know, from a practical standpoint, but from a conceptual standpoint, I couldn't even imagine, because... So, the point is that for all these faults, there is definitely a lot of things that are going very well for these AI here. And the Guardians have been made at 15 minutes. Now they're going to the Zerg base. I'm sorry, the Protoss base, but there are a bunch of Templar with massive energy here. Are they going to catch Storm? One Storm. Splitting. Nice splits. A lot of Storms went down, but I believe not a single Guardian died. And now we see the Ultras and Lurkers, just a very gas-heavy composition, is going to tear up this base. The lack of anti-air is going to definitely be punished here, and that is something that I believe is going to be a theme throughout today, the lack of anti-air. It's been long discussed in the Discord channel how the inefficiencies of Mutalisks Micro, which is something we've seen earlier today already, lead to AIs being able to skimp on the production of necessary anti-air units and buildings, and as a result, getting away with a lot of things against Zerg. There was actually a comment discussion on the last upload about why Zerg is underpowered at the moment, and that was one of the things that was brought up in response in the Discord channel and in the video shared by one of the developers of SCAIT, Dan Gant, in the comments about the fact that Mutalisks are just not being utilized to their full extent. They're incredibly important in human gameplay for establishing timings at which point the enemy should have certain units, and to cut a long story short, we saw this being abused here with the transition to Guardians being able to punish the Protoss for its lack of anti-air units, even having a Devourer here in case some Corsairs are made. Unfortunately, the army from Knightcat seeming to get stuck here 86 supply out of 58, unable to produce more units despite having a wealth of minerals and gas here. And look at how gas starved the Zerg is by focusing almost entirely on these gas heavy units. We have Ultralisk, Lurker, a couple Hydralisk, and Goliath. I'm sorry, Guardian. It's almost entirely a gas centric army, and that's quite interesting to see. The penultimate base of Knightcat does go down here, and it's hard to believe that there will be any recovery, considering that there are, I believe, like no pylons left on the map. We do have 9 supply that's coming from the Nexus, and I think this might be just about GG for our co-commentator's AI. Valiant effort, definitely a lot of positives in terms of macro, cute ramp blocking, protecting its expansions, but unfortunately it too fell prey to the trap of not producing enough anti-air for an opponent that is going from Mutalisks into Guardians, and the AI seems to GG here, which is another interesting thing that AI do. Some of them recognize when they don't have a chance anymore, and they GG. Anyway, thank you for the submission, Kunibot. Next, we will have Stardust versus Dragon, and this was submitted to us by TSC Mu. He is a very interesting developer who works on a Terran bot. Must have been scouting his competition here. Without further ado, let's jump into it. We have Stardust as the brown Protoss on the top left of what I believe is Eye of the Storm. Is this Eye of the Storm or is this Empire of the Sun? I always get the two confused. I think this might be Eye of the Storm based on this area right here. And on the top right, we have Dragon, the blue Terran, which you may recall from a recent broadcast as well, famous for its marine medic and, well, it's, I guess, biomech TVP style, being able to split against, and as I'm talking about biomech, what we see here is 2 SCVs going out very early on into the game. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. They're splitting up their scouting capacities, and the only thing I can lead to assume here is that it's going to be a BBS of some sort. Maybe one SCV to find out where the enemy is, then another to start building already. The center is not quite buildable here, I believe. The SCV does see the probe coming out this way, so it maybe should have assumed that this is the base where the Protoss has to be. But now it knows for sure, and let's see the behavior from the other SCV. It is going back, and what is this SCV going to do? It's going to keep scouting. So, as TSC Move may have said, something strange going on with both players here. The SCV attacks for a little bit, the probes fight back, but then go back to mine when the opportunity presents itself. The gateway does get put down, and let's see what TSC... Oh, it's an SCV rush. Are you serious? These two SCVs decide not to even drop off their minerals. Their workday is over. They punched out. They're going home with their minerals. And let's see how this pans out, this SCV rush. Let's see what the micro is like for the two players here. There should be a supply... Well, there is a supply advantage for Stardust, but in terms of actual raw HP, I believe that Stardust has the advantage. I'm sorry, Dragon has the advantage here. The gateway is up. Let's see if the Zealot is producing. No, we have another gateway. Now we finally have a Zealot. Oh, and the Zealot is being made and unmade. This is something that Stardust creator commented on. Wait, did it pause? What happened? I did not mean to do that. Sorry about that. This is what the creator of Stardust, aka Bruce, said. I added Zealot canceling. Let's see. I added Zealot canceling when my bot transitions from anti-rush to normal, as it had a tendency to think the enemy was doing a proxy for a few frames if the Rax was at the back of the base. I guess this is triggering an instability where it switches back and forth every few frames. I need to add a specific worker rush detection, and this is just an example of just how difficult it is to code for every option, and just how powerful something of this nature can be, even though it maybe shouldn't be. Stardust clearly leading in supply. You can see the supply jumping up and down. And Dragon really just not even very much playing. I see that the two SCVs have gone now. I don't know if this probe destroyed them. It looks like it did, considering the fact that it has only 1 health remaining. But the battle here rages on. I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I have a suspicion that this is going to continue for quite a while. And I'm going to remove this because we already know the story here. We're just going to have to watch this battle of SCVs and probes. So I was thinking that the highlight of this would be, as I mentioned earlier, the AI AIIDE, the advancements in Zerg aerial play and how that impacts the metagame, but I'm starting to think that this might be more iconic for this replay at the moment. I'm gonna have to keep looking and keep thinking about it. More gateways being added, but still no zealots coming out. SCV is not opting to engage actually at all. Interesting enough, I doubt the probe is killing the command center, is it? No, it is not. It could safely do that and eliminate this player at this point. One SCV has gone down at some point. There's not enough minerals to make a new one. More buildings coming up for Stardust, but still no zealots being created. 4 gateways are up. Make that 5 gateways. Still no gas, still no cybernetics core, and the SCVs are just kind of dancing around here. A lot of them are actually quite injured. I believe maybe that is what's contributing to the lack of initiative here. It looks like they're all at very low health, so none of them want to fight. One killer probe is coming out to try to engage with the SCVs. The SCVs, they're all at one shot, I believe. And now the SCVs decide to go back home. And now, is it possible that we will finally see zealot production? No, it looks like we're building and canceling still. And still no gas. Adding 2 more gateways, so now we're going to be at 7 gateways, 0 zealots. The SCVs, all at 1 HP, are going to start mining the, 1 to 5, are going to start mining minerals again and producing SCVs again. So now it's anybody's game. There's the cybernetics core, and I feel like there's going to be a huge wave of dragoons being produced soon, given the amount of minerals that are banked up. Of course, the bottleneck being the gas here, but actually we're not seeing any production at all. Maybe is it going range first? Is it possible? Yes, it is. It's going range first here. And we're seeing a barrage just now coming up for Dragon, which I think is going to be in for a very bad time as soon as those gateways start pumping out dragoons. Excuse me. I recently played against, in a TVP, against a guy who went 3 gateway dragoons as a starting build, and my attempt at an FD got shut down real quick. I didn't even leave my base. I had to pull back and hold the ramp, and it put me so far behind. But actually the dragoons are not choosing to engage. This one hero SCV holding them occupied and pressured, abusing the AI of the enemy here. Something that I've seen TSC Mood do actually in my games, causing them to lead chase. Marines now dancing here, getting ready to meet a greater number of dragoons, and I don't think this is an engagement that's going to go very well for the Terran player here. The dragoons are making their way into the base, and SCVs getting one-shotted. The damage to the economy absolutely brutal, and I believe that this is going to be GG very soon after very, very interesting development here in the game. You know, it's not the I believe that Bruce, the creator of Stardust, you know, like all the best intentions of programming that in to cancel zealots when it realizes that it's not being cheesed, and then somehow like you get hit with a loophole like this, and you just had there's no way to expect that that would happen, I think. And I wonder what the creator of Dragon was thinking at that moment too. And looks like, yes, the game is now over. Thank you for the submission. Now we're going to move on into the next game of what I would consider to be the main portion of this broadcast. We have McGreavesy, well actually, sorry, we have Dragon, the red Terran at the top right again. I'm sorry, not top right, 12 o'clock. It's a little late here. We have Dragon here at 12 o'clock on Icarus as the red Terran, and at 6 o'clock we have McGrave as the purple Zerg. And this should be a treat for all of us. This is going to be handling what I alluded to earlier, which is the developments in aerial play from Zerg. So slight spoilers again, but we're going to see what the new Mutalisk Micro looks like. And apparently this was a major focus for McGrave, who recognized that a lot of the Terran AI that are currently in the Boudoir AI scene are underproducing turrets, and they're not very well placed in some cases. So as a result, a great way to abuse that is to go Mutalisks. But in the past, Mutalisks had bad priority, and bad priority making in terms of what to target, when to target it, apparently, and how to target it, I guess. I mean, even though those dancing mutalisks do look very, very menacing, as we saw in the first game, they don't necessarily have a great effect. Of course, the Guardians did win in that first game, but it was not the mutalisks that did the trick. Here, I think we'll be seeing something different. And looks like the drone is going to... Is it going to cross scout? No, it's not. Quite interesting. Again, I feel like if you see the first scout coming from this direction with your Overlord, you should be able to assume that the SCV... Oh, sorry about that. That the SCV is coming from the main base at the 12 o'clock position. But we have a command center first coming up with just one Marine. Very confident play coming from the Terran player. The drone does get denied here, and it should be aware of the command center here. Bunker going up at the front. Very macro-oriented build against a 2-hatch Mutalisk coming out from McGreavesy. Something that I believe may not be expected by Dragon here. Dragon looks like it's keeping an SCV close in case it needs to repair that bunker against any Zergling aggression. Command center almost up. Also, the layer is almost up as well. Looks like the command center finishes, and the Spire has started at the same time. Shows how brutal of a timing this 2-hatch Mutalisk play can be. On the other hand, the Dragon, the Terran player, has gone for a quick academy off of 1 Rax. Something we don't often see. Well, now that we're adding another barracks, it's perhaps more in line with what we normally would see in the competitive scene. The Spire is going to be done soon. It looks like its supply adequately has been saved up. 24 out of 42. We have 6 larvae spinning. No sunkens, interestingly enough. 1,000 minerals were in the bank. Definitely could have afforded it. 6 Mutalisks are going to be on their way now, and there is a Marine medic force out here, which, if it had been aggressive, I feel like it could have done some serious damage to McGreavesy. McGreavesy now exploring the openings in the Terran play on not just the defensive front with the bad turret placement or insufficient turret count, but also as a result of the lack of aggression. But now we're seeing very much human-like Mutalisk micro here with the stacked Mutalisks. A stark difference to the dancing Mutalisk we saw earlier. Still having difficulty challenging a turret, but oh, look at this. This must be... Alright, I'm going to slow it down. This moment is like that first game where it happened in the pro scene, or at least the game that showed it off best. I believe it was July versus Light. I don't remember the map, but it was an iconic game in which we saw stacked Mutalisks wreck a mineral line in much the same way that we're seeing them wreck the Marine mechs here. One Mutalisk does go down. Some interesting dodging micro happening. Many more Marines going down now. 1 by 1 game picked off, and this is the future of AI, of Mutalisk micro AI, and it's actually going up to 4 bases behind this while keeping the Terran opponent occupied. The Terran still adding barracks, adding 4 barracks actually now, going up to a 5, 6, 7 racks. Deep bio production here from Dragon. While McGrave looks like it's adding hatcheries and a Hydralisk den, meaning that it might be opting to switch into Lurkers soon. Lurkers would be a great choice against a very Marine medic heavy army, and actually it's 9 barracks. 10 barracks? Are you kidding me? That is absurd. No, I'm sorry, I miscounted. That is 9 barracks. I believe that is something that can be supported off 2 bases, even with perfect macro. But these Mutalisks are causing so many stims to get burned, actually, and I feel like these medics must be at low energy. Yes, they are. They're at very low energy. One of them is actually quite high, but the rest of them are relatively low. 1 energy, of course, causing 1 HP to be recovered. And the Mutalisks are just keeping the M&M occupied here. They're not confident in moving out. I mean, their numbers are going to increase quite rapidly. There is a factory coming up, as well as an engineering bay that's getting the upgrade. Let's see what upgrade it is. It is +1 attack. Marine range just now coming in. It feels like that might be a little bit late, and that might have contributed to the early successes of the Mutalisks in this scenario. But now we see Hydras on the way. It's most likely going to be a translation into Lurkers. Are they Mutalisks? No, they opt not to dive in front of the turret. I feel like this is a situation where a human would have easily opted to either snipe the turret or snipe a few SCVs as it was passing. Let's see what's going on here. We do have 3 Hydralisks here. We do have a couple more here. I'm just waiting for that lurker transformation. It looks like the Hydralisk count is actually quite high. Maybe it's going to be just Muta Lurk, which is an interesting choice. It sniffs out that SCV going for an expansion. Is it going to snipe? No, he's going to go for the Marine here. He's going to go for the Marine again. Is it going to go for the SCV? No, still the Marine. The SCV is going to maybe run away unscathed, but one by one, picking off of the Marines here. Some Mutalisks do go down, got a little bit greedy in that exchange there, got a little bit ahead of itself, and the SCV does safely make its way to the top right base to establish a third base for the Terran player. But actually, the Mutalisks are going to go back and check, are they? It looks like they might. No, it looks like they're still going to patrol in this area, this key point. And yes, I just heard the sound of burrows. I wonder what is burrowing. Is it a lurker? Is it a Zergling? Oh, it is the lurkers. The lurkers are out on the map, and we see a Queen's Nest going towards Hive Tech off of 4 bases. What an incredible play from McGreavesy, abusing the lack of aggression from Dragon early on in the game, allowing itself to go for a 2-hatch Mutalisk with 0 Sunkens, which is something that you would almost never see. Medics now being massacred by these lurkers. Mutalisk still keeping an eye out for the army. And we're seeing a very similar approach in some ways to the Zerg from the first game, where it's just these gas-heavy units. And look at this spread, actually, from Dragon. Amazing engagement there. I, as a human, would never take that engagement against those Zergers. I'd rather wait it out and wait for them to reposition. But it was actually handled quite nicely. The count is quite low, but there's not that many Mutalisks either, and some of them are actually quite damaged. I believe there's only like 2 or 3 healthy Mutalisks in there, so neither player really wanting to engage here. Lurkers looking like they're wanting to contain the space again, prevent a 4th base from happening. Actually, Zerglings here and a bunch burrowed here. Great way to control space on the map as well. Really handsome move here from McGrave. And it looks like Dragon is just, he's hemorrhaged a lot of units. He's not sure exactly what to do. Are these going to be drops as well? That would be fantastic. Those can be really damaging to a Terran economy and to supply depots as well if you drop some lurkers here, some Zerglings. And it looks like just Dragon is being pulled in all directions, which is something that Dragon does to me in our games against each other. With this kind of spread, Mutalisks can easily start taking out 1 Marine at a time, 1 unit at a time. It should be noted that the 3rd base is up, but it has not actually generated any substantial income at this time. Definitely no profits, considering the fact that there's a turret and a scanner and the command center itself. Those are costs that have been sunk so far. And I mean, there are 9 barracks, but they're not all pumping at once, it seems, which is an indicator maybe that there was an over-macroing situation happening. And we do see a radiate on the Mutalisk, and that Mutalisk gets pulled away from the flock, which is very nicely done. But speaking of a flock, there's really not much of a flock left. I mean, well, as I say that, I see this really deep cluster of Mutalisks here that take out another SCV here. The vessel doesn't have the energy for an irradiate. Absolutely not. It already burned one. Does this one have it? Yes, I think it might. Yeah, it's close. Let's see what the Zerg is producing so far. The Zerg is now up to Hive Tech, and it looks like it's going to be building an Ultralisk Cavern. Defiler is very difficult to use against mobile armies that are M&M based. But I mean, slowly but surely, Dragon is taking more space. McGrave is taking another gas as well, putting itself up to 5 gases at this point, adding macro hatcheries, kind of in a ZVP style formation, but I guess it makes sense to preserve the building placement and just remove the Sunkens in a sense from your ZVP. Why do the same thing in a different way when you can do it the same way in a passable way? And Dragon has been allowed to climb to quite a decent number of M&M here now. Still about the same supply difference. This kind of supply difference is unsurprising at almost any stage of the game for Zerg. But given everything that's going on, I missed the fact that there was an engagement here. I'm very sorry about that. The Mutalisks looks like they took out a turret, may have taken out a couple of SCVs, and now they're going to continue taking out Marines and medics. Coming a little bit too close to where they need to be. Nice snipe on the turret there, though. It looks like they sniped another one again. I think it's canceling the turrets before the... Yes, it is. I'm quite sure it is. It's canceling the turret as soon as it detects that the Mutalisk is about to attack it, which is very heads-up play. Saves a lot of money that way, I believe. It saves, what, a good 50 minerals that way. Very interesting choices here of what to code for, and it just shows a real potential of AI in terms of being able to know what turret is about to be targeted and being able to cancel it no matter where your quote-unquote attention is around the map. And look at this marauding army of Marine medics though. We have Mutalisks up here even bullying some tanks. Let me move this a little bit. Bullying some tanks up here at the 4th base. An SCV repairing. Some Marines are coming up here now, and there is a vessel on the way. This one definitely has the energy for irradiate. Let's see what happens, how it behaves when one of them does get irradiated. No, the vessel is going to run all the way into the corner. The Marine medics are coming over here. It's actually an Overlord that got irradiated. That's going to be a D matrix on the, what, the tank? Yes, okay. And these Mutalisks are just keeping this arm, like, they're not letting Dragon come out of its base. It's being pulled apart into too many different directions. It keeps trying to go somewhere, but Mutalisks, and now Zerglings showing up at a base up here. Very nicely done. Is this going to be a drop? I feel like this could be a drop. I mean, given the amount of Overlords, there is no other purpose for them to be here. At the same time, we have an engagement in the middle of the map. We have Zerglings, Lurkers, Ultralisks against Marine Medic Siege Tank, but the numbers are way too great. Irradiate's going down on the Ultras. The Overlords are now fleeing, deciding not to drop, it seems like. And this base did get defended. The SCVs look like they took out the Zerglings here, and more expansions coming down now for McGrave. Hydralisk goes down here as McGrave continues to push forward. I think maybe we can start speeding it up a little bit. This base goes down, even though the drones have been burrowed, which is a great move, by the way. The vessel is present. Now Ultralisks are out on the map. They're going to start doing some heavy damage. But they are going to get tickled down by the M&M. The M&M deciding to opt away from the natural and going towards these, I guess, the 3rd and 4th base of the Zerg. But now the Ultralisk count is growing quite high. Mineral and gas count is in advantage for McGrave. Opting not to engage with that Ultralisk because it was irradiated and it would have damaged the Zerglings that are fighting with it. And looks like this base got taken out successfully by Dragon taking his half of the map, quote unquote, and engaging more in the middle. Still a lot of Ultralisks here, a lot of Lurkers. Let's see. This is turning into a very epic TVZ. We still have some burrowed drones here. With the lack of science vessel, they're not going to get noticed. Maybe they're going to be able to retake that base. Siege tanks pushing forward, but not enough support here. D Matrix, very nice. Repair not in time, and the amount of Zerg now is starting to climb. Supply difference is still relatively the same in proportion. And is this going to be a split map scenario? We do see a building coming up here. I'm guessing that's a command center. It might be a barracks though. Let's find out. It's a command center for sure. It's just action all across the map. We got Vessel over here. McGrave now retaking some bases, trying to keep its stranglehold on the majority of the map. Wings and Ultras flowing in from everywhere now. Supply lead for McGrave. This is a situation that you never want to be in as Zerg. I mean, I'm sorry, as Terran. The Zerglings and Ultralisks take a decisive supply lead for the first time in a while. The first time in the game, most likely, for McGrave. Still running in a little bit haphazardly now, opting to go in from both sides. The irradiated Ultralisk wisely engaging there as well. Unfortunately not able to make it. But the amount of siege tanks continues to grow. Siege tanks being a great counter for the amount of Ultralisks that are on the map right now. And especially with science vessel support, softening them up before they are able to engage, adding defensive matrices. But as I say that, a couple of siege tanks go down to the first couple of Ultralisks, and as we already know, the economy is going to be quite a bit greater for McGrave. Looking at down here, we have 77 workers for McGrave, 57 for Dragon. And Dragon only on 2 bases, technically, given the fact that it had, interestingly enough, another command center here, I believe. This one just for show and for scanning, I guess. And somehow McGrave, it probably unburrowed and retook this base, actually, which is beautiful, by the way. It's going to continue pumping Ultralisk, and now it has an almost 40 supply lead. You know that this is dire straits for the Terran player, and unfortunately that attack does peter out for McGrave, but it feels like the vice is slowly constricting as we see Zerglings and Ultralisks engaging from all across the map. McGrave showing us the power of Zerg. answering the doubters from last week in the comment section, asking why Zerg is not as dominant. I feel like we might be seeing the next top Zerg AI on our hands here. Mech upgrades coming in, still more tanks being produced. Looks like all regular Marine medic upgrades must be done because the engineering bay is quiet. But the supply difference, a 40 supply difference in Zerg's favor, is generally not a good thing. The Mutalisks are back in action. There's not enough Irradiates or Marine medic to stop them. The Matrix on the tank's interesting choice. And this base gets held onto, but for how much longer? This base is running out quite low for the Terran player. This base is a do-or-die situation for Dragon, as the Zerg has taken the rest of the map, is now onto a good 8 bases, I think, total. No, alright, 7 bases, but still. And Marine medics keep trying to push out, but unfortunately it doesn't look like it's in the cards for them. Siege tanks, Marines are all coming out to play, and you just have to hand it to it. This has been a fantastic play from McGrave, who is showing us the power of Zerg against one of the best Terran AIs, and showing us what is possible with a little bit of improvement and a little bit of hard work in between seasons, demonstrating some human-like almost control of Mutalisks here over and over again. Again, reminiscent of July versus Light from way back. I believe it was 2006 when we saw this style of play. And Irradiates, I mean, they continue to come down. There are infinite technically because of mana, but unfortunately they are not going to prove enough to stop the tide of McGreavesy. McGrave takes out this base, is going to take it for himself, and is going to start pushing into the main base. Almost maxed out. Now basically maxed out is McGreavesy, and is going to be pushing into Dragon's home, taking out all those barracks, of which there were now at this point 12, by the way, with 2 factories. Great macro potential there, but unfortunately that is all she wrote. And yeah, fantastic performance from McGreavesy. Thank you for sharing this replay. Moving on, we are going to do at least one more replay, I believe, and this one is also going to be from McGreavesy, and this is going to be against Banana Brain. Banana Brain spawning at the 12 o'clock as the red Protoss on Aztec, and spawning at the 4 o'clock, 454. 4 o'clock is McGreavesy as the purple Zerg, yet again scouting in the correct direction with its Overlord. And it's time to see what is possible in the ZVP matchup now. ZVP, similar to ZVT, in the sense that a lot of AI were underproducing turrets in the TVZ matchup. In ZVP, or technically PVZ, Protoss were skipping Stargate and therefore getting huge macro advantages against Zerg because there was no real threat of significant Mutalisk numbers. But McGrave has promised that it crushes Stardust's infamous, I want to rephrase that. The build which Stardust is known for, the 4-gate, McGrave says that now that build is no longer viable, not necessarily in the hands of Stardust alone, but that this Mutalisk build crushes it. We are opening looking like Overpool here. Now let me bring up the production tab for you all. The scouting probe is going to find on the first try. The forge is already up front. Seeing the expansion hatchery should indicate the timing. And there's actually quite a few probes out here. I think this might be, this is definitely overkill. And this is something that was mentioned too. I believe it was discussed by Purple Waves developer in the Discord chat. They said that a lot of AI go for just a standard 3 cannons into expand because why not? Because there is really no punishment coming from Zergs in ZVP for this kind of super safe play. In human play, if you go for 3 cannons off the start, Zerg gets to expand for free, add extra cannons, and have Mutalisks earlier relative to your starport if you do go for that Nexus following up. However, the wall is good, it is safe, and Zerglings are not going to be a bother for Banana Brain. For Banana Brain. And Banana Brain does see the fast layer though. Generally speaking, I believe you want the second gas a little bit earlier, but I would think that McGrave would know better than I about the timing for 2-hatch Mutalisk. Probably, in fact, in 2-hatch Mutalisk, it's probably the minerals that are more of a concern than the gas. So I'm expecting to see again an optimal 6 Mutalisk spawn at the completion of the Spire. We are one Overlord short at the moment, but I'm sure that's going to be popping out soon. The Spire is about 80% of the way, 75% of the way. Meanwhile, our friend Banana Brain unfortunately does not really have very much going for itself in terms of tech. As we mentioned earlier, Stargate heavily delayed by the 3 cannon play, and Mutalisks are already on the way. This is definitely not a good look. We don't have any cannons protecting the mineral lines here. None protecting here as well. This is very, very much a dire situation for Banana Brain. 2 sunks already coming up in the natural, as opposed to the last game we saw. Mutalisks are now being grouped up together. And actually we already have a Corsair, but it's not going to be enough to handle 6 Mutalisks, I don't believe. They're going to go for the probes here. There is going to be 2 Corsairs now, but that's still not enough. Great splitting here, great micro, great control. Did eat a few cannon shots, which is unfortunate. Splitting off 1 Mutalisk to handle that. And is going to start taking out probes here. Takes out a couple probes. More splitting, more micro. Let's slow it down just a little bit for now. They're completely ignoring this there, and this is more what we're used to seeing in terms of Mutalisk micro from AI. This kind of split, non-human style splitting. Oh my goodness, it's so gorgeous to watch. It's absolutely absurd what is possible with AI in Brood War. And the worker count continuing to hemorrhage for Banana Brain. Now at fewer workers than its 2-hatched Mutalisk counterpart, which is not a good look in this situation. I've been in this similar situation before, and I've had to scrap my main base to get the cannons up in my natural and try to fight back from there. But I'm not sure if this is even viable at this point. The Zealots not opting to counterattack. With this amount of Zealots, it's possible that some damage could be done against 2 Sunkens, especially with a run by, but the AI not opting to buy itself that time by doing so. I mean, now that I say that, the Zealots are leaving the base. It's interesting to see where they will go. This 3rd base is now up for McGrave. Where is Banana Brain going to go with these Zealots? It's going to go straight for the natural. Are they going to engage? The Mutalisk going to be pulled back. Sorry, I'm just dancing around, but we do have 1 Zealot out here. I'm sorry, 1 Mutalisk. 1 drone goes down, a 2nd drone goes down. 1 Mutalisk sees. Is it going to be engagement, or are they going to try to run past? It looks like they couldn't decide for a moment. Either they run single file along the way, they take down drones on their way to the main base. McGrave, I believe, was talking about their drone running pattern. Actually, they're inside the base now, the Zealots are. And this is potentially dangerous. If they snipe the Spire, that's one way that they can potentially regain control of the game, or at least get back on their feet. But no, it looks like they're actually targeting the drones. Drones intelligently running around, letting these Sunkens and the Mutalisks take down these Zealots before too many drones are lost. And the 3rd base, mind you, is still healthily running. High drone count here, adding Sunkens. Mutalisks in the meantime have thinned out the worker count, and it's actually quite low workers for both players, but advantage still, I believe, firmly in McGrave. You never want to be at a supply disadvantage at this stage of the game as the Protoss player. Zealots sheepishly running back home as more Sayers and Dragoons are being made. Hopefully a High Templar in the works soon as well. Unfortunately, we do see more Zealots being produced. 1 Sayer getting caught out here, getting surrounded by these Mutalisks, and it is going to go down. They're going to go back into the main. Credits to Banana Brain for adding these cannons here in strategic positions, defending the gas and the Stargate, defending the mineral line and the other cannon and the Stargate somewhat as well. Mutalisks microing, but 1 does go down. Would love, absolutely love to see injured Mutalisks being pulled back home for recovery. That's something that I've done as admittedly a troll build before. You have 12 Mutalisks, or technically 11 Mutalisks, and an anchor point always, and you switch out the most injured one for one that just got made, and that way you accumulate Mutalisks until you get enough to just run down their base. In this case, looking like it's not even going to be necessary. Splitting up the Mutalisks so beautifully against this Sarah. Dragoons still being produced, and Mutas are, to be fair, Mutas are going down, but transition into macro is being done here. We are up to now 6 hatcheries for McGrave, and the Hydralisk den is up, so it looks like the Hydra transition is on. Mutalisks are just now here to stall and keep the Protoss pinned into their base for the most part. Economically speaking, McGrave's still ahead with 37 workers to 34. Quite a good position to be in when you're this Zerg. Another Sayer is going to go down without accomplishing much against these Mutalisks. And Yet another. Looks like there's no real coding for accumulating stairs and keeping them safe until you have that critical number. Generally, it's 5 with +1 or 6 because of the fact that you can snipe Scourge before they reach you. But with no accumulation, these Mulisks are allowed to run in and take out probes at their discretion. 48 workers now to 37. The economic advantage for McGrave is climbing. Now we have Hydra Lurk pushing up to the front, going up the cliff, and this, if this natural falls, it would be very dire straits. More probes going down, 2 pickoffs and go back home. Very nicely done while splitting here against the Corsair. Just another example of the beauty of AI multitasking. And look at that micro there with the Mulisks. Although the army is pushing back, there's not enough. I don't think that there's enough Dragoons to really handle this. The Zealots are going to go down first, though, and the Dragoon count is climbing. Slayers are going to keep coming in one by one just to get hemorrhaged into the Zerg forces. And now we have Mutalisks running amok again in the main base of the Protoss. One Mutalisk goes down, but so many probes are going down as well. 40 probes against 59. And the army is pulled all the way back to defend against this. Again, exactly as McGrave said, there was just not enough defensive structures. There's not enough anti-Mutalisk strategy, even in some of the top-performing AIs that we have seen over the past few broadcasts. I've definitely dropped games to Banana Brain and Dragon, and this Zerg AI is making it look easy with these Mutalisks. Well, I don't want to say easy, but definitely doing quite well against it. The only problem here is that it did get trapped a little bit here. This Hydralisk forcing some issues, or a group of Hydralisks, reminiscent of the Jadon game. I don't remember what map again, but there was a flood of units that came out of his main base. That is an iconic Brood War moment. We see Zerglings opting to attack. No, not quite yet. 4 bases now, 4 gases for McGrave. Third base, interestingly, coming up for Banana Brain. I mean, he had to take it here, but no attack upgrade. Very pressed on minerals and gas. Workers are like 20 less than the Zerg, which is something you never want to see. And look at this massive amount of lurkers. This could take out this army twice over, even though Dragoons are technically pretty good against lurkers. They are not the optimal composition by themselves or in conjunction with a handful of Zealots. However, it looks like McGrave opting instead to pull back and go home as it takes its 5th base here at the Gas Natural, and actually 6th base and 7th base at the same time. Going into Sauron Zerg style, it seems like, taking up half the map. Both mains on a 3-player map is the par for a PvZ on a map like this. With no other main for Protoss to take, it's going to be a battle for these side bases. Cannons do get picked off, and look at the amount of lurkers here, slowly creeping forward, almost in a siege tank fashion. Flank coming in from the side of Zerglings, Mutalisks, and more lurkers. Not quite combined yet, kind of dancing around, not engaging quite yet. The Dragoons showing their might and their spreading abilities, using the concave to take down those lurkers. And the lurkers get pushed back, and they're now inhabiting the low ground areas outside the Protoss' 3 bases. But I can tell you, as a Protoss watching this, I would feel very suffocated at this moment. Even with lurkers, even with reavers and shuttles, this situation is not good. Effectively 1 mining gas at this time. I believe that this gas is expired. I clicked on research by accident just now. Storming coming up for the opponent, for the Protoss rather, by the way. And look at this massive production tile. I'm going to move this up here a little bit. Let me see if I can do that. Yes, I can. Okay. Massive production tab for the Zerg player. So many units being made at once. Morphing lurkers, more Zerglings, more Sunkens, taking more bases. Zerglings burrowed at every base to prevent expansion. Reavers, though, worth their weight in gold against lurkers. Fantastic units to make. Archons being made as well, which are not bad, but not exactly great, especially now that Defilers are out. We do have Defilers out on the field. Dark Swarm, not quite landing on top of all the lurkers, but enough to definitely get some forward momentum. Beautiful pushing here from the Zerg player, and McGrave really showing the strength of Zerg here in these 2 consecutive games, the ZVT and ZVP, back-to-back, demonstrating what is the possibility for Zerg. It's almost as if it's an answer to those comments from last week, and I wonder if McGrave was laughing to himself, knowing how unready the rest of the competition would be for this Mutalist opening and into a very, very macro tech heavy follow up. I mean, look at this. Look at this expansion rate. Look at this economy. 74 workers. Very rare that you actually get to see Zerg hit numbers like this, or at least hold on to them for very long, unless they're in a very dominant position. And this, and I was really impressed with the swarm pushing here. That was very well done as well. McGrave, looking like it might be the next big thing in the SCAI world and in AIIDE. Now, speaking of which, I do want to take a moment to take a look at AIIDE. If you're not aware, it is the AAI Conference on Artificial Intelligence and Interactive Digital Entertainment. Now, this is it seems to be a larger conference that encompasses a lot of different things at once. I'm not sure exactly what the Boudoir affiliation is with this, if it's an official part of this organization, but I do know that at the very least, oh, what am I talking about? It's right here, StarCraft AI competition. And if we go take a look at it, we see that there is a lot of information that we can see here. We got results and files from the previous years. You can use that to explore the development of the history of StarCraft AI competitions. By the way, we do have that link here. We have all the rules, software, everything that you might need in order to educate yourself on this if this is something that you're interested in. We do have the submission deadline, as I mentioned earlier, for September 30th, and the tournament starting very soon, if not already underway. So, in the coming weeks, I am going to expect my co-commentators to bring up these developments in the StarCraft AI world. This is by far one of the bigger competitions that people submit for, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to cast some replays from the top performing boss, and it's going to be interesting to see what solutions AI have for the new and improved McGrave. I hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, any requests for future broadcasts, please do comment below. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend, or whatever is left of it, and a wonderful week ahead. And stay safe, be healthy, and be happy. Take care, everyone.